I'd like to invite Courtney to speak a little bit about the opportunities. Well, what would you want parents to know when you are welcoming them to the middle school and transitioning them? What do you think are some important things? And Jennifer, you can also chime in. What do you think it would be important for parents who are concerned or have or just don't know that what they should know about the transition moving from elementary into middle school?
I think the first thing I would say is that it seems like a really big change. The kids develop and mature over the years though, and they actually become accustomed to being in middle school a lot quicker than we expect. Because it's very frightening to have your child start middle school. It's a big change. However, the students often fall into it's a new thing. I go with the flow and I learn. Everyone is learning when that transition happens. So whether special education or general education, it's a new building, it's new teachers, a new schedule, everything is new for them. So it's also a way to look at it as a new blank slate. Everyone is starting fresh.
And both of the middle schools offer a time for all of the students, both general ed and special education, to go up to the middle school to see the school, become a little familiar with it. We also offer times for the parents to come up and meet the child study team members, some of the teachers. So I think that's a helpful way to help reduce parent anxiety. And at that time, I always say that the parents are usually more nervous for the transition than the students are. The students find it to be pretty exciting, and it's like, I'm growing up. So they're excited about that. So the parents usually have a little more anxiety. So we try to tell the parents to relax, so that way the kids are a little more relaxed.
Marianne, you comment a little bit about how some of the services might shift based on the schedule, because I know the periods of a middle school day are quite different than the elementary, and some parents wonder, well, how does that translate? How do we transfer our frequency and duration of service when we're in this middle school model?
At the middle school level, we're very flexible, and I think just to piggyback onto the last question, I think it would be helpful for the parents to know and to remember that nothing is the end of the world. We are all very lovely people, very flexible people, and we work things out. And we understand that it is a transition from, elementary school, where mommy and the teacher are really doing everything for the students. And now in middle school, we're expecting them to take on a little bit more responsibility and be independent. And it is in transition, and everyone's very flexible in dealing with that transition. With regards to your question, we always try to keep least restrictive environment at front and foremost, as well as together with meeting the needs of the student. So for example, because we have the rotating schedule, if a student has a related service in that schedule, we look for the ways that we could provide that service with not having a negative impact on the critical portions of their day. So for example, if it's occupational therapy, the therapist might have the opportunity to do a push-in during gym time. Or if it's speech and language, the therapist may pull them from an elective period and stay away from the core 4 subjects so they don't miss anything that's critical. But we look to be flexible and almost like wallpaper, where it's kind of seamless. It's a little bit different from elementary, where the therapist might walk to the door and knock on the door and say, oh, I'm here to pick up the speech kids. That doesn't happen in the middle school level. All students are assigned their time, emails go out to the parents and possibly to the teachers, but we really try to keep stigma and identifying of the students very low for related services.
Thank you. Jennifer, if you're there and you can comment, I think what Marianne's commenting on is the fact that as students move through the years in middle school, we really do begin that support towards independence at a whole different level, so that when they're leaving the middle school, they're really equipped to be those independent learners, again, with support as needed, but to be able to navigate that high school world. That's our goal at middle school, is to make them more independent and more able. And for students with disabilities, we have a stronger responsibility to do that, because it might be easier if we told them what to do and gave them those supports. And some parents might look at us and think, well, why aren't we giving them more support in these areas? But we know if we're building and cultivating that independence, that really is giving them the support they need, because that's where they need to go. They need to have those abilities before they leave us at middle school.
Right, which I think is important, that some of the students who need a little bit extra help with that might be something that we work on in counseling. We also have the social psychology class, which also helps work on self-advocating. So some of these students might need the help at first to say, okay, this is who you ask for help. And then we wean them off of that. So we say, okay, go ask Miss Cromack for help with this question. And then the next time we ask them, okay, who do you go to for help? So we try to guide them along and help build those skills while supporting them. But again, we do want them to become independent by high school, so that way they do feel confident when they do leave us. But we usually get there. Usually by 7th, 8th grade, they know where to go. They know the building better than the teachers. So we feel very confident that they will feel independent by the time they reach high school.
Thank you. So before we leave today, I think that, before each person signs off, I want to thank the team members for coming on today to have this discussion on transition based on their areas. If you have one last suggestion about how parents should, identify what their concerns are, and maybe how students identify what their understanding is of their disability, or how we get a child to understand it at their level, any advice that you feel you could give before you sign off, let's just kind of leave with those good thoughts. My feelings are, be patient and kind with yourself. Be patient and kind with the people working to support you. And of course, be patient and kind with your child. If they say, I don't know, a lot of times, they really don't know. When you're asking them for their ideas of what they want to be someday, we're still adults and we're still looking at that. We don't always know. So asking either or questions and looking for other people that might be able to raise a question in a different way might be helpful when you're talking about transition. That's my suggestion.
I was thinking that since we work mostly with the younger students, we don't get a lot of information from them, but all our information comes from the parents. And sometimes our meetings can be a little overwhelming, and you might feel a little intimidated meeting with teams the first time or the second time. And then after meetings, it's always fine to go back and either call with more questions or to write down. One of the things we were talking about are the students' strengths and weaknesses. Make a list of their strengths and weaknesses, share that with the team. We can share it with the teachers. Sometimes it's really good to know something your child is interested in, and we can piggyback off that and build off of it. But if something doesn't go right at a meeting, you always have the option of coming back, calling, writing an email, and then you can get that information you want us to know that way.
My advice is to always give positive praise. Even if you have a terrible day, find a positive for the student. Even yourself. Parents have tough days. Mom and dad have those tough days. So remember to give your spouse or give yourself a positive compliment. It helps everyone throughout the day. Maybe even the teachers, give them something positive too. And it really changes the way everyone looks at things.
I would say maintaining communication with everyone who is working with your child. If you have specific questions, you can gear those questions toward the teachers or the related service providers. And certainly the case manager is highly interested in staying abreast of the progress or the difficulties that your child may be experiencing. So never hesitate, even if it's a small question, to send an email. Or if, sometimes with certain cases, if a child has maybe made a transition from one program to another or one level of service to another, we meet a little more frequently. just to touch base and make sure that everyone is comfortable and has the same understanding so that we can all support the child together.
I think what I was going to say would really piggyback off what you were saying about communication, Ms. Devaney, and really just to let parents know that they're not in this alone. You know, we're here to help them figure it out. And before any challenges, they're children and they're going to grow and they're going to develop. And sometimes we have to give them the time to do that. And we are not going to solve the problems in one day, but together we will help your child improve to the best of their ability.
And then the one thing that I always stress whenever we have our transition meeting with the parents over at BF, and I'm sure the same is true for GW, if you haven't had a chance, and I know we all have plenty of time now, but Google the struggle of the butterfly. Because, you know, when you think about the caterpillar being in that cocoon and the struggle that it goes to break out of that cocoon, maybe isn't always pleasant, but it is necessary. And that's how the butterfly builds resilience to be able to fly on its own. So sometimes when we think we're helping our kids, if we're over helping and not just, you know, mothering, but smothering, you know, it becomes too much and we end up enabling the, you know, behaviors that lead to less success. So a little bit of a struggle and a challenge is okay, as long as we give them the supports to overcome that. And that's where we're looking to be. And remember, from point A to point B is never a straight line. Everybody, it's either a roller coaster or all circles going around, but we will eventually get to that point B.
Thank you. Did we get everyone? I think we did. And I will add to that last comment, not every cocoon opens on the same day either. So you not only need to be patient and accepting and embracing of the struggle, but the struggle in its time. I thank each and every one of you for coming on to help with this good orientation and discussion and support of transition. Thank you. We'll post this when LSHSA